What is up, everyone? Welcome to another No Idea podcast. It's hard to believe, Adam, but this is episode number 4. We're slowly getting up there, but number 4. Episode number 4, and we want, if you haven't already done so yet, it would be awesome if you'd subscribe to our YouTube channel or our podcast, wherever you listen to your podcast, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, we are out there. So to tune in and never miss a podcast, because we love bringing information to you so that you can learn, you can laugh, and you can learn with us as well. So we're so glad that you are tuning in today, because today is it's a special day. I'm super excited.
Big. At the end of the show, stay tuned for the whole thing, because at the end of the show, we have a huge announcement coming.
Big announcement.
Big announcements, and you're going to want to hear it. You're going to want to be a part of it. That's the best part of it.
Yes, absolutely. So for those who are not watching, but you're listening, my name is Aaron Sturgis, and joining me over here is my brother, Adam. And today our special guest is Jeremy Perry. Jeremy Perry. And Jeremy, what do you do?
I work for the Department of Natural Resources in the Division of Public Safety and Resource Protection.
Awesome.
Does this mean we're big? I mean, we have a warden in the studio. We have a warden in the studio. This means we're kind of big.
It's either big or you're in trouble. One of the two.
I know, right? I know. I told my brother, I'm like, this is nerve-wracking.
I'm not gonna lie. We've talked about shotguns. We've talked about smokers. Now we have a warden in. And I was a little nervous coming into this. I
got tannerite in here. I just got to make sure everything. Yeah. No, but Jeremy, this is so awesome, and a big reason why you're here isn't because of what you do for a living. It's because of your passion, what you are passionate about, and what you have been doing since 2004, almost 20 years now. And we'll get into that. So we are so glad that you are here joining us, and our third guest here on the podcast. So tell us a little bit about yourself. I mean, so you're conservation warden, DNR Conservation Warden, but you're not originally from around here.
Right. I actually grew up in northern Missouri, so I'm a southern boy.
I can't tell.
Well, the funny part about that is I've lived here in Wisconsin now longer than I lived in Missouri prior to coming up here.
Okay.
But I still can't shake the accent. So.
Yeah.
That just tells me that you all talk weird, not me.
y'all. Do you still have family? Do you get down to Missouri?
I do, yeah. All of my family all still live in Missouri. My mom, my dad, cousins, aunts and uncles. And I get down there once or twice a year for a few days. And I've got 2 young boys now, so it's always great to go down there and have grandparents spoil them for a few days.
That's awesome.
So
tell us a little bit about just being a warden, the day. Not necessarily the day in life, but just you've obviously had pretty extensive experience here in Wisconsin as a warden, but just tell us what it's like being a warden here.
Yeah, for sure. Growing up, growing up on a farm, being in the outdoors was always something that was near and dear to me. Every time I had an opportunity, if I wasn't in sports, I was out running around the creeks and the timbers and fields and things along those lines. And so I coming from a family who's always appreciated law enforcement and a military family, I always knew that public service was something that was near and dear to my heart. What better job is there than public service and the outdoors and being in the conservation law enforcement aspect? And so that was my dream from early on. And eventually my dream brought me to UW-Stevens Point, where I graduated school from there, and was lucky enough to be hired as a conservation warden in 1999, right out of school. And my first field station was in north central Wisconsin, Rusk County.
Rusk County,
The first and last?
The first and last field station I had, yes.
Which is exact. That's kind of our connection. That's where we we kind of come together. Our paths cross as far as Rusk County and Bruce and whatnot. So that's how you got here. Met your wife while you were up there.
Yeah, my wife's originally from the Rusk County area. Her family has been there for many, many, many years, and I always joke with her that. An outsider coming into Rusk County who has a very small population, it was probably her only chance to get outside of her family tree. So,
hey, and I'll tell you what, to my knowledge, there's only one set of Sturgises in Rusk County, and they're all out now. They're all out of there.
Yeah. Can you share with us a little bit? as you think about the DNR, you think about hunting, trapping, fishing, and all that stuff. Just what would your take right now be as far as the climate, the relationship, if you will, between hunters and anglers and trappers and the DNR? Because I'll be honest with you, the devil, which is social media, seems to just be. There's been many groups that I've been on where I'm just like, man, DNR gets a bad rap. Like, you're always out to get. Now, to clarify, you're not a biologist, correct?
Correct.
You are a warden. You're
Correct.
an officer,
Yep.
and so forth. But what would your take be right now as far as the climate?
That's a great question. The climate kind of depends on the social age structure of the audience.
Okay.
When you look at the Conservation Congress setup, and the Conservation Congress is an advisory member group that provides information to the Natural Resources Board or to the Department of Natural Resources through the annual spring hearings that happen every year in April. That makeup is largely made up of some of the older generation of hunters and fishermen, the folks that have a little bit different upbringing than what our generation does that's currently coming through those ranks. There's seems to be more people that are coming from more urban areas that have a less of a connection to the everyday soil of the earth, the dirt of the earth folks that grew up on farms and things along those lines. So a lot of their influence might come from social media or come from the reality TV shows that you see on TV all the time, and not so much from the actual hands-on being able to experience those things.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you, my most influential years as a hunter was mid to late 90s, early 2000, where I'm sitting up in northwest Wisconsin, and I don't see a deer for 15 minutes, so I get up and walk around, and I see deer. And now all of a sudden, everybody it's wolves it's this, and everybody's mad, and they're mad at other hunters, and they're mad at the DNR, thinking the DNR have it out for it's just like, man, the reality is it's just that's how our ecosystem works, and we need to understand that. And so I was just kind of curious. But aside from that, what on earth would drive you to a profession in which a majority of your confrontation is with people who are already carrying a weapon? Like, I would be crapping my pants, like opening morning, and it's 5:30 in the morning, and someone already has blasted a shot or something, and you got I mean, what is that like? I mean, are you on?
It's a fair question, right?
Yeah.
Because most law enforcement, when they go up to a vehicle in the middle of the night, that's doing something wrong, they're hoping there's not a gun there.
Correct. Yep.
Conservation officers or game wardens run up there hoping that there is, right? Because they're going to be able to make a case. But in the grand scheme of things, the majority of the people that are out there utilizing our resources are in a good frame of mind. They're relaxed and they're enjoying themselves. And so when you contact somebody like that, even though there might be a violation, it's not because you're already going to their house because something bad has already happened and they're already in a negative mind frame. So that's one aspect. The other aspect of it is that we employ people that are really, really good at talking to folks. Just for the point that you mentioned there, being by yourself in the middle of nowhere, your closest backup from a law enforcement officer might be 30, 35, 40 minutes away. Yeah. And so
especially in northern Wisconsin.
Especially in northern Wisconsin. If you go out west in some of those western states, it might be hours. So we really focus hard on our training and our process to be able to develop our speaking skills, to know how to talk to people, to know how to de-escalate situations if they tend to be rising in elevation and everything along those lines. So, and luckily, in the 24, 25 years now that I've been a conservation warden, our use of force incidents are very low. And nationwide, when you look at the all of the millions of contacts that conservation officers have, the use of force situations against them are are extremely low compared to other law enforcement. And I think that's a lot of the reason, because people are generally in a good frame of mind.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know?
So a little bit, hopefully an easier question. Like, what is the most common infraction that you address? Let's start with fishing first, and then we'll go to hunting.
Yeah,
With fishing, like, what's
it's another great question, and it all depends on the time of the year, right?
Okay,
You know, because there's no slow season when it comes down to our work. In the wintertime,
Yeah,
we're
no
dealing
doubt.
with fishermen and hunters and snowmobilers, and then in the springtime, we're dealing with boaters, ATVs, fishermen, and hunters, and in the summertime, it just keeps going from one busy section to the next. But for fishing, probably fishing without a license. Is probably one of the more common ones. It's not uncommon for groups of people to get together and on a whim decide to go out and
Somebody
do
throws
some
out a
fishing.
line and they just didn't think about it.
Yep. And in today's society, or in today's technology use, it's a little bit easier to get your license than what it was 20 years ago. You had to run down to the gas station or the clerk of courts. Now, in 5 minutes, you can pull it up and buy one on your phone.
Yeah. And we're still, I mean, that was the last spring listening session. We're back at, wanting to go back to back tags, pulling into the gas station, registering the deer versus what we've been doing for the last couple of years. So it's been really, really fascinating. What would be your number one suggestion? So you pull up on me, and I might be like, oh, yeah, I think I might have. I mean, what would be your like any even law enforcement officer, you just be honest.
Yeah, that's absolutely exactly correct. Honesty goes a long, long ways.
Yeah.
Sometimes even when you're honest, there's still going to be consequences for your action, but they will be far less severe than what they would have been had you lied about it. And I used to talk about this in the hunter education classes that I would speak at when I was in the field, and I remember a story that I used to tell. When I was, I don't know, probably 4 or 5 years old, if that, I had a BB gun, and I loved to shoot things. And one time I shot the window out of my mother's car, and I wasn't paying any attention. It was back beyond my bottle that I had set up to shoot, and I never realized it. And then my mom realized it pretty quickly, and she came looking for me and kind of gave me the riot act, and then the dreaded words that says, "Wait till your dad gets home," right? Because you knew your life was about to end if mom was bad enough to say, "Wait till your dad gets home." So I'm trying to contemplate where my life is at right at that point in time, and what my options were when I hear the door open, my dad walks in. I can hear him and my mom talking downstairs. He comes upstairs and he sits down on the bed next to me and he says, "Hey, did you shoot the window out of your mother's car?" I said, "No, sir."
Oh.
And I can see just the look of disappointment on his face. I can still see it today. And then he opened up his hand, and inside of his hand was a little golden copper-colored BB. And he says, "Why was this in her back seat then?" And I got punished, and I earned it. But the lesson that he taught me there is something that I still hold very true today, and that is, it doesn't matter what you do. Everybody's human. You're going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
It's how you handle that mistake is where the true test of your character is. And so I've used that in the enforcement that I've encountered in my job. If you're honest with me, we'll work through it. If you lied to me, well, we got some more problems. We're going to have to work through those too.
Well, and I like that you point out that, and this gets super deep, but that's such a cultural thing in our, I'll go as extensive as country right now. Like, no, I know people that they'll make up stuff just because they don't want to accept the consequence. Even if it's okay to say you made a mistake, you're still going to accept the consequence. And we make daily mistakes, and again, this goes across. This goes way outside the parameters of what we're talking right now, but it is. And in my profession, I see it all the time too. And how many, when you were in school, if the teacher called home, they probably said, sided with the teacher. And
of
now
course.
It's kind of a little bit opposite, where it's they're going to defend whatever. And that's, again, it's a cultural thing, and that's where we're at. And I'm sure you see that, a ton in the field. But so despite all of that and the challenges, you obviously thrive on your interactions. But what is it about being a warden that just drives you? What do you absolutely love about doing what you do?
Being in the outdoors and interacting with people. In my opinion, the two best things that you could do and earn a paycheck on in this world is to be outdoors and interacting with people every day, trying to make a difference. You know, one of the things that's always been important to me was, try to make it a little bit better for your kids, and hopefully your kids will make it a little bit better for your grandchildren. And after you go through a couple of generations like that, just imagine what our world would be if everybody had that type of philosophy.
And I know a lot of people say that well, that's very Miss America pageant type of a thing. But if we don't have people striving for that, then good Lord, it's gonna be awful.
How are we going to get any better as a society if you don't have those type of people out there?
And one of the things I'll quickly point out, and I know in a very near podcast we're going to be talking with a few people about balancing lifestyles with kids in the outdoors. Aaron and I are also currently doing our little mini book club thing with Stephen Ornella of The Meat Eater. Just wrote a book and released it within the past month, called I believe it's Outdoor Kids in an Inside World.
Yeah.
And he talks about, hearing you talk about your upbringing and stuff, as being at eye level with nature, not looking down on it like it's gross or dirty or icky or dangerous. Not looking up at it like it's some magical thing either, but just being that we are part of it. We are, and I think again we have to strive for that. Even though we may think or know that it's in our generation is impossible to get to, we still have to reach for it. Because if we don't at least attempt, then our kids lose it, and then their kids have no chance of it. At least if we instill that into our kids, then there's a chance that the next generation gets it. Because if we don't, then the next generation has no hope.
Oh, exactly right. Even if you live in town, you live in the city, you're still connected with our resources, right? You walk outside, you take a big deep breath, that clean air, that's a resource.
Yep.
Why is that air clean? It's because the people who came before us set standards on what that air should be. Or, think about it this way. You go to the tap, you turn it on, you get a glass of clean water. So you don't think twice about it, right? You take a drink of that water knowing that it's safe to drink. And it got safe because of the people who came before us setting those standards. And then you have the people of today that work in the natural resources profession and the regulatory side of things that are ensuring that tomorrow it's still going to be there.
Yep. And that's why conservation in itself is so important. And again, preservation is we don't touch it. It is what it is, and we don't touch it. Where conservation is, we're interacting with it, and we're going to maintain it so that we can continue to either enjoy it or use it or whatever it is.
So that really segues into why you're here, and that's and for those who are watching or listening but not watching and don't see it,
we're getting close.
But he has a shirt on that says "Hunt of a Lifetime" since 2004, and it says, "What does it?"
Look on the back.
Oh, where magic happens. I love that, where magic happens. So, this kind of, not to take too much from you, because I want you to describe this, but this really came from you recognizing a trend, and that is just the number of youth not participating, right?
Right. Yep.
Expand on that. So, I mean, this really started in early 2000.
Yeah. So, for those of you who've never been to Rusk County, it is a blue-collar, hard-working type of community up there. They work hard, they play hard, and they are very connected, what I always call the hook and bullet crowd. They love to fish, they love to hunt, and from that connection and from the work that I was doing up there, one of the things that really troubled me was I wasn't seeing a lot of youth hunting outside of the traditional deer hunting camps. I didn't see very many youth turkey hunting. Duck blinds was almost vacant of any kids. No rabbit hunting, squirrel hunting, or anything along those lines. And so I got to talking to some of the other sportsmen and women around the county, and they were saying the same things. We're not seeing a lot of participants. We're seeing a lot of kids come through hunter education. We're not seeing a lot of kids actually out there on the landscape. So we all sat around a table and got to talking and decided, what are we going to do about this? What can we do as a group? What is there that we can provide more opportunities to the kids? And that's how the Safe Hunters of Tomorrow, or the acronym SHOT, was founded. And we decided that our focus on that program was going to be to provide outdoor hunting type of educational opportunities for Rusk County's youth. And we started with a youth turkey hunt in 2003, and that was a very successful program. We had a couple of fundraisers to get funds because our goal was that money was not going to be a barrier. Right? We wanted everybody to have an opportunity, whether you were poor or whether you're a millionaire. It didn't matter. But all of our programs were going to be free of charge. And so that fall we did a youth outdoor field day where we invited all of Rusk County's hunter education graduates to come out to the Trails Inn facility, where we had different types of hunting outdoor themed stations set up, so that they could learn about turkey hunting, they can learn about bear hunting, they can learn about waterfowl hunting, they learn tree stand safety, they shot trap, they shot muzzle loaders, they shot 22s. They were able to experience all of this in one day. So it was a great way to supplement the hunter education program, which focused on firearm safety, but it really didn't give the kids an opportunity to really experience a lot of those different activities. So that was very successful. Had great feedback from that. And then one of our founding members of the program had a son with special needs. And he approached us at one time and says, hey, it's great that we're doing all this stuff for our able-bodied kids, but the kids that are really struggling, that have severe disabilities or life-altering illnesses, there's really not much for them to do. There's not a whole lot of opportunities, and what can we do for them? And that was a great question, something that, quite frankly, really struck home for me, because that was a population of the outdoors that at that point in time, doing some research on, was really being neglected. There was really not a lot of opportunities out there for them. So again, we sat around the table with a couple beverages with that group and decided that we wanted to do something special for them, and that's where the Hunt of a Lifetime was born from. So
So to quickly,
yeah.
to just to kind of pause for a second, any type of outdoor pursuit, be it hunting, fishing, skiing, hiking, canoeing, anything like that. But we've just talked about this before we started tonight. Was the biggest limitation, the biggest restriction, is access. So the number one reason people get out of hunting, fishing, or anything to do with the outdoors, or the biggest thing that prevents them from getting into it, is access to be able to do that. And I just want to make that point because, again, we have able-bodied people that are having a difficult time accessing our resources. So then to think about the challenges of that we don't think about because we can walk out to a tree stand.
Right.
We don't think about the fact of a kid that would love to, wants to, but is in a wheelchair. So how do you get them a quarter mile into the woods and in a situation and into an opportunity where they can harvest an animal?
Yeah.
So again, that just as a kind of a segue and just kind of tying that all together, I think that's really important because access is so. We talked about it. Aaron talks about his first, your first bow deer that just happened a few years ago where you mounted it and we hunted. I mean, I'm 38 and my biggest deer is probably a 70-inch 6-pointer. I mean, that's which I don't care, but I've harvested many deer. But but the point is that's because of the challenge of the access to things. And I'm not doing it to get a 140, but there's a lot of people that just don't have that access, and this is where it strikes home for me because in my profession too, I work very closely with young adults that would have struggled with that access, and we'll get into that a little bit more here shortly. So describe the program. And examples of youth who've participated in this.
Excellent. So once we figured out that's the direction we wanted to go, then the next challenge, to your point just a minute ago, is where do we have someplace where we have access to where we can get some of these kids into those areas where they need to be, and do so without further injuring them and things along those lines. Because some of the kids that we had in mind for this program are severely challenged mobily. And we were lucky enough to have a businessman up in Rusk County. Bill Rands is his name. Bill was a very detail-oriented outdoorsman who also had some limitation challenge. He injured himself quite severely falling out of a deer stand, and kept his passion for the outdoors. And so he developed a lot of his property to be handicap accessible.
Unreal.
Where there's blinds that were set up with a door wide enough that you can put a wheelchair in.
Okay.
I mean, just something as simple as that. Paved areas. And once we got going with the program, he and a couple of the other mentors in the program, Tote Bienick and a couple of others, came up with an elevated solution deer stand that's all mobile. You wheel it out there, you put it up against a tree, you wheel the wheelchair in, you lock it in, and then it's battery powered to go up, to give the kids an opportunity to see what it's like to actually hunt from a tree stand and not just hunt from a ground blind.
That is amazing.
It is.
What about like the guns, like the rifles? Excuse me. Explain that too, because being able to hold it and pull the trigger and aim and all that would be pretty difficult. Speak a little bit about this. This is really cool.
Yeah, it was a problem that we never really anticipated until we were faced with it, right? So our first couple of years, our hunters were fairly able in their upper body, so they could hold and manipulate a firearm. They could sight through the scope and the whole 9 yards. Well, we had one individual that came to us that can't. All right, but now what do? Well, let's get to the drawing board and let's see what we can come up with. And through Bill's connections and the inventive nature of his friends, they came up with a gun that sets on a tripod with a closed circuit television screen that looks through the scope, and so it's a bigger screen that the hunters can look at. Sip and puff system where you suck through the straw and it makes the gun go boom. And then we actually had to elevate that after a few years of using that program because we had a child that couldn't suck through a straw, so we had to develop a push button system to make the gun go boom, So one of the biggest things for us is that there is no child with any type of disability that is limitless for us to get out there in the outdoors.
Everybody has an ability.
Absolutely.
They have an ability.
Yes.
Absolutely. That's the biggest thing too. That is absolutely incredible. And the one we'll talk about, and we can talk freely about him, is Trevor. Trevor is a student that I had, and that's kind of what brought us together today. Trevor's teacher showed me a picture of him, it's a grip and grin with Trevor, and that was one of the most powerful things that I've seen, and you nailed it. Everybody it just might need some more modification, but everybody has that ability. And so to see Trevor, and Trevor was not able to communicate things, but he through traditional methods of speaking and things like that, but he was able to tell you, when he was happy and not, and what yes and no and that kind of stuff. So to see, and that's kind of the biggest thing is that's a small example of the bigger population that's there, but there's a lot of kids and adults that you give them that opportunity, and it opens up a whole new door for them.
Yep.
So what do you what kind of species? Everything? Bear, turkey, deer?
Yep. So we focused this hunt specifically on deer and bear. At first, it was just bear. That was our first idea. And in talking with Bill, he says, well, if you're going to come up and you're going to stay, we've got all kinds of deer up here. You might as well throw deer in there too. Yep. And so we did. I'll tell you, I'm going to throw a little plug out there for Bill, just from the standpoint that it is really interesting to see the evolution hunters, right? Because we all know the traditional evolution of hunters, right? It goes from to the point where you can start hunting, and then it's all about bagging. You know, how many animals can I bag out, and then it goes down to the the trophy hunter,
The biggest,
right?
yep,
Yeah,
the
how can I
trophies,
kill
yep.
the biggest one and put all that time in, and then you get to the stage of passing along that ethic, and and your value of the hunt now comes from the smile of the youth or the others that you're helping hunt. And I seen that with Bill, and it was really cool to see, because our first year into the program, Bill has a large tract of property, and he very intensely manages that for deer hunting. And he had a few deer that were on his harvest list, but it wasn't on our harvest list, right?
Yep.
You know,
Okay.
we can shoot management bucks, but not these bucks.
Okay.
And so we went through that first year with that, and then the next year, I seen a little bit of a change in Bill. He says, there are these two big ones, and these are off, but here's some decent ones. We'll put those on the kill list. And then by the third year, the change was unbelievable. It went from, you guys aren't going to harvest these deer, to nobody is going to harvest these deer until those kids get the opportunity to shoot those deer.
Shout out to Bill.
Yeah.
That is now to participate in this. I think it's a 3-day, correct?
Yeah, it's a 3-day hunt.
So does he? Do you all provide the lodging, all that?
Yeah.
Meals,
Everything.
Okay, that's amazing, because I've been to his place, and it is. You walk in and you're like, this is God's playground. I mean, it's just awesome, and the fact that he's opened it up and done that is just a huge shout out to him for that. But so they harvest a deer or a bear. Then what do you do? Because some of these families never done this before.
Right. So just to go back just a little bit, all of that is free of charge to our families.
Yep, okay.
And that's done through donations and fundraisers and things along those lines. So it's a 3-day event. We get our permits to be able to harvest these animals through the DNR's Learn to Hunt program.
Okay.
So there's certain educational requirements that come along with that. So we usually meet in the morning of the first day, and we go through all of those educational requirements for the Learn to Hunt program, which gives us the ability to have those permits to harvest those animals. So we harvest a buck and a doe and a bear. So the first afternoon, or the first morning into the afternoon, is education, and then that afternoon is a deer hunt. The next morning is a bear hunt. Afternoon deer hunt. Next morning bear hunt if needed, and then that afternoon of the third day is our wrap-up celebration. So we really try to make the event not so much about harvesting the animals, but of what brings us all together in the nation from a hunting standpoint, and that's the camaraderie. The ability to get together, to share a common goal, to share a love for the outdoors, and be able to do that with others is really the drive that keeps the outdoors alive and keeps hunters engaged into this. And so it's a big wrap-up celebration. All the families are there. We have many of the families of our previous participants that come up specifically for that. We make a pretty big deal of it. There's each hunter gets a plaque that has their specific hunt on it and things along those lines. And then the taxidermy for the animals is all free. It's all donated in part by the taxidermist and through the other funds. The processing of the meat the same way.
Yep. Oh man, that is phenomenal. And you've been doing this for how long? Since
Well, our first hunt was 2004, so we're pushing 18 years now.
18 years.
Yeah.
And this is all basically donation driven.
Correct.
Whether it's donation of property, time, resources, all the way up to, obviously there's some finances behind that, some monetary. So
Yep. All of our mentors, everybody. I mean, it takes a village really to put on an event like this and to make it run as seamless as what it does. And there are a pile of people that make it possible. The members of the Safe Hunters of Tomorrow program, a little bit of a financial backing, but they bring a lot of muscle and a lot of manpower into it. Because let's face it, after you have 15 people there for breakfast and everybody goes hunting, somebody's got to do the dishes, right? Yeah, exactly. So that job is just as important as the person who's out there sitting with the kids to mentor them and things along those lines. And it's
And
really,
so from a monetary standpoint, we're going to talk about that in a second, but from a client standpoint, who are we looking at? 12, I think it's 12 to 18, right? Who are we looking at for people, if anybody's listening or watching, that would be, knows somebody or has somebody that would be a potential candidate for something like this?
Great question. That's one of our challenges, is finding the participants to come along on this hunt. And there's a couple of what barriers that we've identified to that. The first one is, when you have a special needs child or a child that really has a lot of attention that has to be paid to him or her, to come up into northern Wisconsin into a cabin with a whole bunch of strangers is a pretty intimidating task, right?
Yep, no doubt.
That, and then the other thing too is that those families are proud families. It's very difficult for them to be able to accept an opportunity like this because they're proud, and so. We all know of people out there, of kids that would absolutely love this opportunity. And so the challenge is just getting them pointed in the right direction and getting them to take that little step of faith and give us an opportunity. But we really focus on the youth. It used to be 12. It started out as 12. So we've had a few 10 and 11-year-olds in there. And the reason it started out at 12 was because there was a hunter education requirement of the program. But now that we have the mentor opportunities through the laws that were passed, we don't have that age restriction as much anymore. And we try to focus on that 18, 19 time frame, but we have had some hunters in their early 20s that are cognitively challenged, along with being physically challenged from traumatic brain injuries that happened when they were 8, 9, 10 years old that has kind of locked them into that type of mental aptitude.
Yeah, awesome. So anybody listening right now, if you know of anybody or have anybody, please reach out to us or Hunt of a Lifetime. We would gladly, again, that's a tough thing, especially if it's not in your wheelhouse. If it's not, necessarily your family's in your family's background or heritage or culture within your family. That's a challenge. That could be a challenging thing to say. Okay, I'm going to put my kid in a situation to harvest an animal, things like that. But again, it's an opportunity.
Right.
It's an opportunity for them. So anybody listening, please reach out and we can get you connected with Hunt of a Lifetime to provide that opportunity for somebody.
We'll provide the links. We'll provide the links down below of this episode. So
yeah, great. And just I got a cool story I'll share with you. You just triggered one there. So a few years ago we had a hunter that harvested his buck. Then harvested his bear, and then that afternoon, we were sitting in the stand to harvest a doe. Beautiful night. His family was up in the stand with us, and a beautiful large dry doe comes out onto the food plot. I mean, from a management perspective, this is a deer that we want to take off the landscape. And he was also nonverbal, but he was done. He was done hunting. Wanted to stay out there and wanted to continue to watch the deer, but the harvest for him was done. And that was a cool thing to see. Let alone for somebody who this is their first time hunting, but any child amongst a bunch of big burly hunters in a stand that's saying that's the one, let's shoot it, to say no, I am content. I'm happy just watching this.
You've witnessed that connection happen.
Absolutely.
Right, that all hunters talk about. When you harvest something, there's something inside of you that's like, yep. But then you get to a point where, I'm good.
Right.
I'm done.
Right. Absolutely.
Man, that is awesome. All right, so really quickly, back to the program. Can you share a little bit more about how it's sustained? Money, grant money? How can people help?
Yeah,
That kind of stuff.
thanks for that question. So the Safe Hunters of Tomorrow holds a summer fundraising event every year, and a portion of those proceeds come back to the Hunt of a Lifetime. Bill Rains, through his graciousness, through his business, also donates some of the funds to the program, and the rest of the funds just come from donations. We've had memorial donations from folks that have passed away, and rather than to get flowers at their funeral or go to the American Cancer Society or anything along those lines, they've designated it to be part of the Hunt of a Lifetime. And then just at-will donations from folks.
That is awesome. Well, that segues into our big announcement.
Yeah.
Boom, boom.
Boom, boom. Here you go.
Adam and I are wearing a T-shirt, and this T-shirt is an awesome T-shirt. And this T-shirt was made by Bo Janke, who, if you are into the music world, them Coolie Boys. And what he does is he carves the logo out of wood, and then he literally paints on ink and presses it onto a T-shirt. So he made these for us. He made 100 of them, and we're super excited because we are launching these, and you can find these T-shirts at noidea.tv. And here's the cool thing. Buy one of these T-shirts, and 100% of the proceeds goes towards a Hunt of a Lifetime. And so our goal is to raise a couple $1,000s. You know, and it's just a couple thousand, but we have been blessed with the opportunities to be able to hunt and the access to hunt and to fish and so forth. And this is something we want to get behind and help with. So again, if you're watching or listening, go to noidea.tv and you can purchase these here. You can have us, Adam and I will deliver it. We'll deliver it free of charge if you want, but we'll also mail it out to you as well. We hired my mom. My mom's the one that's going to organize this.
She already has the T-shirts all organized by size and number, and you know my mother, our mother from her time as a deputy.
There's not going to be any problem whatsoever. Everything's going to be right on.
Her accounting skills are pretty impeccable, but check it out. There's going to be options. We're working on options to also. The shirts will be $20. Is that correct?
$20.
We're working out options if you want to also donate more money in addition to the $20 for the T-shirts on that website. So again, noidea.tv.
And if you donate, here's the cool thing: if you purchase it for $20, you donate, let's say $30, you'll get a really cool car decal. If you do $50, you'll get a car decal and a hat. And if you do $100. Adam will drink a White Claw, sign that empty White Claw, and send it to you as well with the car decal. It'll be awesome.
I have a feeling Nick's gonna get one of these.
Nick will get an autograph.
You're on the hanger for $100 here, buddy.
Yeah. So we just want to throw our support behind this because again we believe in access, we believe in conservation, and we just believe in what you and like you said, probably the hundreds of people that have their hands involved in some way, shape, or form that is doing this and providing this for somebody who probably would never be able to have this opportunity. So thank you, man. This is awesome.
No, thank you guys. I mean, what you all are doing to help the program is nothing short of amazing. And I can't tell you how much we appreciate it.
Yeah. All right. Well, Adam, you got anything else?
No, I mean, I know I'm always the quiet one anyways, but I'm at all. Thank you and Bill and everybody. I mean, I can't imagine what it takes, but also again, the impact that and some people may come, they may do it and then that's it. And then and they had a good experience and that's awesome. But also it could open up doors for people. And that's what I think is the biggest part. Because again, I mean, we have to, and it's not just about getting more hunters in the field. Right. It's about getting more people that are going to conserve our resources. Because if we don't have anybody, whether they're hunters or conservationists or anything, if there's nobody there, there's a lot of big problems that can happen. So, I mean, this is absolutely incredible. So thank you, seriously, awesome. From the bottom of our hearts for everything that you've done and connecting with us. And I know we've been at this for a couple months, texting back and forth.
Right.
Hey, does this not work? Does this not work? But
It's like three dads trying to get their
right?
calendars together.
we got t-ball, we got wrestling, we got soccer, we got this and that.
It's not wrestling. It's wrestling, isn't it?
Depends on where you're from.
Yeah.
Right? Depends on where you're from.
Wrestling.
Or if you're a basketball player. I mean, it's okay.
And I do want to give a shout out to Rusk County because you referenced it. Aaron and I will admit we're Rusk County boys, or born and raised in Bruce. And I mean, I think of the Goodis's, the Johnsons, the Burnaps, like you said, what did you call them?
The hook and bullet crowd.
Hook and bullet crowd. Oh, that's such a good thing. Oh my God.
Hook and bullet.
That's awesome.
Hey, that's a T-shirt. We should do a T-shirt.
I know,
there you go.
Hook and bullet.
Rusk County. Like, just put the Rusk County map on it. I mean, but that's as cheesy as it is, that's our homeland. I mean, that's where there's so many things, not just to do, but to be engaged in. And it's an awesome place to be, and no better place for a program like Hunt of a Lifetime.
Yep.
So
Yep.
Yeah,
Awesome.
well, and then just think about it from that standpoint too. Just piggybacking on that, shout out to the Rusk County crowd, one of the poorest counties in the state.
Yep.
And people there are more than willing to open up their pocketbooks and their wallets to make sure that those kids have that opportunity.
Yeah.
And that's nothing short of amazing.
absolutely. And the Hegelholtzes, they used to have the pheasant farm right on Highway. They still got a pheasant farm
Yep,
there?
yep, it's still there.
I played basketball with Jason. I mean, none of them would probably listen to this, but it'd be awesome if they did. That'd be great.
This is gonna go viral because we got this guy.
Yeah.
Oh, shoot.
Because of Jeremy. So
Yeah.
I'm glad I'm sitting on stools here, so my feet are up.
yeah, right.
Yeah, right. Well, again, thanks so much for listening. If you haven't yet subscribed to us, find us on our socials, Instagram, Facebook, subscribe on Apple iTunes or Spotify as well. But again, big thank you to Jeremy. Big shout out to Bill Rands up north as well, and that whole host of men and women who make a program like this happen. So, okay.
Good talk.
See you out there.
Thanks, fellas.